Watch Dogs, unfortunately.
Xbox One's most exciting launch title.
Oh dear, if only it was still true. If you haven't heard, and you really ought to have done by now, Watch Dogs has been delayed until the spring of 2014, so at least April we're going to have to wait till.
We just ruined someone's day.
I know. I'm really sorry, guys. Although I think Ubisoft are far more sorry about it.
Are they?
I think they are. I think they would have wanted this to come out. It is one of the most exciting games coming to next gen. It was one of the highest pre-ordered games on Xbox One.
Yep.
And that's not going to be fulfilled.
I honestly find it very, very strange that this has happened now, considering 2 months ago they were sending out those boasty emails saying, was it the Los Santos sort of?
You've only got a couple of months, to make the most of it. It's
2 months is enough to stay in Los Santos, come to Chicago.
I think it did seem to come out of nowhere, but then when you think about it, well, let's cover the details of why we think it's been delayed. The official statement was that the game needs more polish.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to applaud Ubisoft for having the guts to say this game actually just isn't ready yet. I mean, everything you're seeing right now, it's a gorgeous looking game. It seems pretty close, but they clearly don't feel it's quite there yet. They want to take it that little bit further.
I think it's the Assassin's Creed situation. Personally, I loved Assassin's Creed 1, but I know a lot of people had less than nice things to say about it. I think the issue was a lot of the time felt like a tech demo instead of a fully fledged experience. And when I look at Watch Dogs, that's something that worries me a lot because, okay, you're this dude who can stop crime and you're investigating the city, but realistically, when you can set a blackout across the city or just pretty much do whatever you want, what challenge is there? What is going to worry this super hacker who can control every single aspect of his destiny in a city? And that's something they're obviously struggling with getting to work. It's a great idea, but it's a great concept, but can they get that to work on a 20, 30-hour game?
Yeah. Oh, we really didn't have very much of an idea that this was going to be delayed, other than just there was a sense of unease over. We haven't really seen a huge amount of it. There haven't been the big hands-on events. It hasn't been widely accessible at conventions. So those might have been clues that it was struggling a little bit. We use the word struggle. We don't mean to imply that it's in big trouble.
No.
Just that clearly they feel like they could take this game a lot further, and they're actually been brave enough to step up and say, if we release it now, it's not going to be the great game that it can be. They want this game to be able to take on the likes of GTA, to be a Call of Duty. They want it to be an ongoing series, and they clearly don't feel like, as it stands, it's got enough about it to warrant a sequel.
Well, Ubisoft said a couple of months back that they're in the business of franchises now, so they will not start a new series unless they can sort of mark it out across a couple of years. So, it makes sense to delay it from that standpoint. They need to get it up to scratch because it's got a lot of competition this Christmas. That would have been a hard time to launch. But, I mean, just even going back to the fact that none of us have really seen much of it, it's very strange. Obviously, I went to a reveal event for the PlayStation 4 a couple of months ago, and they had all of the launch lineup games there, except Watch Dogs, which they showed off to managers of game stores and stuff like that, and they took it away before press got there. Now, I don't understand why they don't want press to see it, why they don't want press talking about it in a hands-on perspective, and that worries me quite a lot.
Well, I mean, maybe the answer is what we've just had is the delay, that it was maybe still had a few bugs there, a few things that could have been picked upon and scrutinized, maybe in Ubisoft's mind unfairly at the time.
Yeah.
We often see games way ahead of release that are glitchy and buggy and whatever, and we tell you as much as we can, but we also have to make allowances for the fact that these games are still in development and they're not finished, and we don't expect them to be absolutely perfectly polished when we see them for preview stage. What we do expect is for them to be perfectly polished by review.
Yep.
And as said, Ubisoft have made it clear that this game wasn't at that position for a November release. So they've got 6 more months at least.
6 more months, and obviously Assassin's Creed's coming out by the time this is out, and it looks fantastic. It looks beautiful. John, you've had a little bit of a hands-on with it, and
yeah, I played the next gen version. It's not sort of leaps and bounds above what the Xbox 360 is going to look like, but the Xbox 360 version is absolutely superb, and the Xbox One plays great. So
But that's the level of polish that we now expect. You know,
Absolutely.
you're spending into next gen. It's a lot of money. You know, even if you're staying current gen, it's still 50 quid. It's a lot of money, and I don't think we're not in 2007 anymore. We can't just have a nice idea. It needs to be big and sort of just bodacious, and that's what this could have been, and what it can be, as long as they get their heads down.
I mean, I've got every faith that this game will still come out and be excellent, largely because they've just come out and said that they're going to keep working on it and get it there.
Yeah.
They're as committed to making this a great game as we are keen to see it be one.
Are you worried at all by the other announcement and what it sort of highlights for Ubisoft? The Crew also got delayed until end of next year. You know, that's a huge delay, which obviously got overshadowed a bit by Watch Dogs. But is there problems inside Ubisoft? Would you?
I don't think so. I would imagine it's more to do with the scale and scope of what they're trying to do. I mean, Assassin's Creed Black Flag has been made across 6 or 7 studios internationally, which just goes to tell you how massive that game has been. It's also being released on 6 or 7 different platforms.
It's crazy.
But that's the level of development they're moving into, and you know, Watch Dogs is coming out on multiple platforms, being made across several studios, and the Crews are coming out on multiple platforms from several studios. Managing that kind of size of team, we're talking hundreds of people working on each of these games across continents. I think that's a logistical nightmare, and I could sort of see how that would begin to get out of control, particularly when you throw in a next generation of consoles all of a sudden. Maybe, you know, I think Watch Dogs seems like it was always intended for the next gen, but they're still making current gen versions, so that's a problem, or not a problem, but a challenge to get around.
Definitely.
And the Crew might well have been planned as an Xbox 360 and PS3 release, but then they had to adapt to make it a next gen game because it wouldn't make as much sense in any other way.
No, of course. I mean, even just looking at this gameplay footage, what elements of Watch Dogs really sort of impressed you, and which you know, what are you going to be sad about not being able to do this Christmas?
Well, I mean, it would be great to be able to play a real world set open world game on Xbox One from day one. I mean, that would have been great, just to get lost in a world like this in Chicago, which is a fantastic city anyway, but to get to see a sort of digital version of that would have been fantastic. I
think
we still have Assassin's Creed for that, which is, you know, in terms of an open world, but it would have been nice to have launched the console with something like this, particularly since actually, you know, it's much more than just a kind of sandbox GTA style game. We're talking about a sort of mixture of that with a little bit of the tech side of Assassin's Creed, with a little bit of Deus Ex almost. You know, such a wonderful mixture of genres and styles.
Do you know what it really interests me about the open world is obviously we just had GTA, and GTA looked amazing, but there's something about it doesn't quite look super real. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but you look at this sort of depiction of Chicago, and I just think it looks unbelievable.
Well, I mean, if you just look at this shop here, there's the level of detail they've gone into, the brickwork, the lighting. I think is always the most important thing. Just the lighting feels right. It's a dark, dingy store.
Yep.
You know, the only lights coming through the front window. You know, they've got a TV on in the background. That's what's happening.
That guy's got a really cool wolf T-shirt. Oh, amazing.
But yeah, it's that sort of level of detail that I think helps Watch Dogs stand out. If that's the level of detail they're trying to put into every element of this game, no wonder it's going to need a few more months to develop. I think that's the point, is the more we see of it, and the more you think about it, it's just like, yeah, no, Watch Dogs deserves time. You know, we should probably be giving it as much time as it needs. And I think the reaction online that we've seen has been largely very sad, of just, I really wanted to play that, but also it's like, well, I'd rather play a really great Watch Dogs game than an unfinished Watch Dogs game that needs constantly patching
totally.
over the next 6 months before it's really finished.
I mean, speaking in a broader sense, how do you think this affects the general next-gen lineup for Xbox One specifically? Do you feel like there's maybe a piece missing? And
I don't think so. It's a blow. It's sad because I say it was one of the most pre-ordered games on the console, so clearly a lot of people were very keen to play it. But I don't think it's a huge loss. Particularly since it's not being cancelled or anything, we can still look forward to it in the new year. It's not that long to wait, and I think there's still enough variety in the Xbox One launch to feel like we're getting a nice broad range. Let's say Assassin's Creed for your open world stuff, a great option in terms of kind of really tech savvy, generation defining, tech pushing kind of games. We've got Forza, we've got Rise. There's plenty to pick from. Dead Rising 3 is another. We keep sort of forgetting about Dead Rising 3, another potentially fantastic open world game.
Yeah.
So yeah, plenty of options for that kind of gameplay, for messing around, for these emergent moments. Maybe not in the same style as Watch Dogs, maybe not as cool
Ambitious.
or ambitious, maybe. But hopefully just as fun, maybe even more fun.
It'd be really, really interesting to see what this game looks like when we hit sort of April, May time.
Yeah,
It's by that point we would have had your Titanfalls of the world and some other big releases. Destiny's going to be on the horizon, and
that's, I guess, the downside for Ubisoft, not so much for us, but for Ubisoft, is that they've delayed the game out of the launch window, which is already fairly competitive, but Watch Dogs was doing well in that against the competition for November. They've pushed it back into an even more competitive area when Titanfall's coming out, and that is grabbing everyone's attention. Interestingly enough, of pre-ordered games on Xbox One, Titanfall is also on that list, even though it's not out for several months. It's already one of the most pre-ordered games on the console.
But yeah, I guess overall, Watch Dogs will still be successful, won't it? It's one of those games that for 2 years now we've been talking non-stop about this game, and
it was probably the first next-gen intended game that caught everyone's attention as being like, wow, that's actually something that we haven't seen quite like this, anything quite like this before. It seemed to tick all the right boxes in terms of pushing the tech, being player defined, giving you freedom, but also giving you a lot of really cool tricks. And hopefully it will still deliver on all of those levels. We're really looking forward to seeing more of it very soon, and seeing how far they can take it. I think there's going to be a couple of months where people just pretty much concentrate on nothing but, hey, how come you guys delayed it? But once we get past that, I think come the new year, everyone's just going to be focused on, okay, how much better is it? Is it really, really cool? Is it delivering everything we hoped it would deliver?
For my
there's
money,
a really good chance that's going to happen.
For my money, I think they need to stop in the next couple of months. It's just going to be really integral to make sure this game looks as good as it can for the public. And I honestly think they need to stop focusing on the multiplayer and stop focusing on the side missions, and they need to actually show us some campaign. It's outside of the initial reveal where he chased the guy down to the traffic lights. We haven't really seen any actual missions being played out in any substantial way, and I think that's going to show the real promise of what Watch Dogs can deliver, and I'd really like to see more of that before April.
I mean, a lot of this is speculation on our part. My personal feeling is that probably the campaign is solid. I would imagine that was the first thing they tried to get right. If anything, it might well be it's the side missions they're trying to tweak, just to make sure that the world feels full enough and rich enough for you to really explore it and find lots of cool little things. I mean, one of the drawbacks of certain open world games in recent memory, one that comes to mind is Mafia 2. Really enjoyed Mafia 2, had a really great story, played really nicely, but I always felt like the world was slightly empty. There was maybe a handful of side quests and side interests that you could kind of find, but not enough to really make the world feel alive and full. And that's a really big thing. I think for a really great sandbox game, you need to be able to just wander around and find cool stuff without really meaning to. As long as that's not there, it's going to be a disappointment.
As long as it doesn't do an Assassin's Creed and make me sit on benches for like 10 minutes to like try and find out who's guy, I don't know, I hate that. I don't want that. If it makes me sit on a bench even once, I'm out. I'm just going to wash my hands and leave.
I don't know, I get the impression that Watch Dogs is going to have quite a nice, some quite nice stealth elements to it. I don't mind a little bit of stealth, a little bit of sneaking, a little bit of patient gameplay every now and again. But you're right, you want a certain level of action and excitement sometimes. But anyway, Watch Dogs, due out spring 2014. We're still very excited. We are sad it's not coming out for Xbox One launch, but we've still got so much to look forward to, and fingers crossed it's going to be absolutely.
Let's set up an ambush right here. By dragging the other player back here into the alley, we make sure that no civilians get hurt during the firefight. We didn't succeed in hacking the second player, but we did get a little bit of revenge. So that's what we have time for today. We hope you enjoyed our quick gameplay session. Stay tuned for more about Watch Dogs.